Yeah. It starts at 3.
Training or what are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing a training. We're doing budget updates. Us. We're going to log into there. I can do laptop. Yes. There we go. I don't have a map. Oh wait, no, I do. Okay, so it should be laptop. Display on, it's up there. All right, what's the innovation? Maybe you should really like. Maybe it should be on this one. Be on Zoom as well. And then you're on there. Because I have to share my screen. But I don't think I can have multiple people. And this is coming from the laptop.
See the chat.
Yeah. Sorry, it was like 15 minutes to figure this out. But I would have to log into here for it to be like thing. We'll figure this out.
I made a dummy one for me to put library like the team. That's the one I did. That's right.
Hi. Hi, everybody. We'll start shortly. I'm trying to troubleshoot here. Maybe. If I need to, because it's hybrid, so I need to be on Zoom. I'm on Zoom on my laptop, hook that in. However, I need him to watch the chat in case anybody. Okay. 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 Let me know who. Okay. I think so, yes.
Send me on.
Okay.
Yeah, the water is for you.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I have to switch. Because then there wouldn't be any sound, so I have to get onto here. Get off of this one, log in through here. That way, when she speaks, it should feed into this stuff. Because on here, I don't know if it does. Let's see. We'll see. 15 minutes of not having time to set up threw me off. I'm trying to find my email. Where are my emails? That's not on there, right? It's that.
It's their. We did this. I just started them to hide to it. What I should prove it. That's the way to do it. It's too strong.
How can I just join? Sorry for my browser.
My grandkids.
Yeah. You don't have babies? I just want to.
Can you show anything? Okay, cool. Can't detect your mic.
Anyway, so it's a No. You're good. I'm having my outfit.
So this should be set up as a hybrid situation where I'm on Zoom and I'm also presenting to you all, but it's telling me it can't detect my mic. So I'm not
We can hear
sure.
you. We can hear you, Somali.
Oh.
Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
Kalina went back to her office.
Can
They
you
can hear
hear
me?
me?
Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna unplug this. Because this one's a different one, and I'm gonna get out of this. Because I'm on there twice.
Somali,
they
can
can-
you hear me?
On the laptop is what I'm seeing. Because I'm unmuted on the laptop, I see it moving. And then I'm muted on this one. Because it's not detecting any audio. Default. Let me try audio. Your browser is preventing access to your mic. Okay. Why is it blocking my mic? You hear me on the laptop, but you don't hear me on this one. So I think I'm gonna get out of this one. Switch back to the laptop. The problem is if anybody talks, it's gonna be on my laptop speakers and not the speakers in here. So it'll be a little bit muted. Thank you for checking. So I'm gonna switch back to the laptop. Okay. So we're gonna do it this way. Sorry. Thank you for all of your patience. And then we had the previous session run over a little bit. And so it cut into the time for me to set up. So I apologize for the delay. Thank you for joining me. I am Somali Bowles. I am the Director of Finance and Grants at Bakersfield College. very generic title for this session. It's called Budget Updates. At the time where I submitted the request for us to do a presentation, I knew that there was going to be several updates for us to cover or processes that we'll need to cover as well. We're limited to an hour, so now that we've got into it, it's 3:12, so we have about 48 minutes left of this session. And so one of the things I wanted to focus on is all the updates that have been communicated out to the campus. I want to ensure that everybody is getting those communications. One of the ways that we've communicated was through our office from the BC Budget Office and also from the VP of Finance and Admin Services Office. You may have seen communication come from an email address that's VP FA Office. That may come from our Vice President of Finance and Admin Services, which is Queen King, or from the Admin Assistant for Finance and Admin Services, which is Cecilia Gabaldon. So let me see. With that being said, one of the things that was covered recently that will affect your budget that the VP of FAST that had updated at Admin Council is fixed assets. So what will affect your budget is if you have any items that are 10,000 and above, that's when you use fixed assets. So previously our district policy was 5,000 and above, but now that has increased to 10,000 and above to match the federal regulations. And so if you have any items that are 10,000 and above, that's when you use that fixed asset account that you add onto your account code, the FA, and that's how you identify it as a fixed account in our coding. If it's a fixed asset, that means it has a useful life of more than 1 year. That includes any facilities, equipment, any software that's over 10,000 that we would own. That would be when you would use that. If it's software that's licensing, if we're doing licensing purchasing every year, that's not considered as part of our equipment category. That's going to be in your services category. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Another item that we wanted to bring to the attention of the campus is purchase orders. And so if there are any purchases that are using personal funds and then requesting for reimbursement, that's outside of our policy because it's not going through any approvals. And so we're trying to stay away from that. And so if there's any purchases that need to be done, it needs to go through our processes, which you would do a purchase order. That needs to be put into the system. If it's where a purchase order is not something that is able to be done, because we do have vendors that prefer credit cards, that prefer other ways of forms of payments, please let us know. Exceptions can be reviewed and approved by the VP of FAST. And so that indicates what that process is.
Molly, are you
Yes.
sharing your screen?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
okay.
Oh, let me see. I apologize. Let me go back to the Zoom and share my screen. Okay, can you see my
Perfect.
shared screen now?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
it, and Rita also clarified that the information was emailed earlier. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for pointing that out because I wasn't sharing earlier. I apologize. Okay. So, other items that we would like to update the campus on is there's location codes. So Bakersfield College has grown. We have other sites that are out there. And so we've had Delano. There is a location code specific to Delano. So if there's any expenses that you are purchasing items or you are focusing programs on Delano, please use the location code for Delano. That is BD, B as in boy, D as in David. The logic that we built for our location code is it starts with a B for Bakersfield College, and then A will be for Arvin. So BA for Arvin, BD for Delano, BS as in Southwest is for Southwest. And then we have a new code for the Weil Institute, which is BW. And so that would be the logic. We'll follow up with a chart so that you have that to reference as well. If you go into Banner and look up location codes, they will populate in that as well. And so we want to ensure that we're tracking the expenses for these locations so that when we analyze all the expenses for those locations or any sort of instructors that are assigned there, we want to know the full expense for those sites. Right now, Delano is recognized as a center. And so with centers that are recognized with the state chancellor's office, we get additional funding for that. And so if we can continue to code things in Southwest and Arvin or Weil, we can do an analysis of whether or not we can qualify that as a center. And so it only helps us determine also what needs are in those areas as well.
Is this like starting now or like?
We're doing a soft launch into it. So whatever you can identify, please use those location codes. As we're planning for fiscal year 27, we're going to be working with budget managers and PIs to see what we can identify. And so we're moving towards that transition.
So Molly,
Yes.
will it be possible after the presentation to also email the handout again, because not everyone was able to receive the information?
Okay, I will do
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Trying to see if I can get her louder. I guess that's the loudest. Okay. ICAs, so our independent contractor agreements, those are required to be submitted prior to dates of service. So as soon as you get your vendor information, everything that comes in, if it's been a month or two because you've been waiting on the vendor to submit things back to you, please update that date, especially if the services don't start until, let's say, for example, if December you received it, but when you first started the process, you put December 1st, but then services are not starting until January, change that to a January 1st date, because all the approvers that are in the system, where it's for the VP, all the way up to the CFO, they'll deny it if it's after the fact.
Well,
Yes,
perfect.
yes,
Let's say you ICA on file.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were using the voice and everything, but then you notice that it's getting close to going over the bid limit.
okay.
So
So if you notice, and as you should be noticing because you're tracking how much you're using of that open ICA. So once you get to a certain point, you would need to reach out to contracts. If you go into our employee forms under the contracts area, they have amendments. And so you can request an amendment. However, at that point, if it's above the threshold, it will have to go to board for approval, because then it becomes an approval item. And so then that increase, you would have to wait for that approval from the board before you continue services that would go beyond that threshold. Does that make sense?
So yes,
You'll have to estimate how much more of the services that you're going to need. So let's say you're coming up to the threshold, and also I'd like to point out the threshold now is 119,100. That was effective January 1st. It'll be effective because it runs over.
but if one was established.
She's asking existing. So we have a question of if the existing contract has been under the threshold, or, under that threshold,
Will it update?
yeah. Yes, because previously that threshold was 114. And so then effective January 1st, if you need to increase that, then you can increase that for that additional and keep under that new threshold. But if you're gonna go over, then you'll have to calculate how much longer of the service that you need. So if it's services that are at an hourly rate or a monthly rate, then you calculate how much more you need.
If you know that this is going to be time with the event.
Yes. And waiting for the next board date.
Something that you can't deny, hey, we gotta hold on using service because it is considered something that we could provide at the college. So then what do we do? Because we're gonna put getting invoices coming through.
Just to repeat, in case the individuals on the online did not hear, the question is, if we reach to the point where we're hitting the threshold and we'll have to ask for an increase, but we are providing services that cannot cease because there are student services that we cannot, but that we still need to provide, my recommendation is go through your chain of command. Catch it early enough and then go through your chain of command so that it could be requested to be expedited and that everybody's aware, and so that it could be a rush so that we can then work with the district also in case that needs to be expedited as well. But it has to be a really good justification. So why, yes, services that need to be provided that we cannot cease, but then also list out what would be affected. You know, students not meeting graduation requirements, etc. That's necessary to provide in addition as a justification so that you can justify that expedited services.
And Somali, was there anything under overtime that you just submitted?
Oh, I apologize. Thank you for pointing that out. For overtime, if you do not have activity codes that exist in your budget, for overtime, please use the activity code BTL001. BTL stands for Bakersfield Temporary Labor 001. That is a way for us to, and you, to identify the different benefits that are related to the payroll expenses. The way that positions are set up for classified positions that can qualify for overtime, when that overtime posts, there's no change to their position number or their suffix, the way that HR identifies different pays. And so the only way that we can tell what benefits are related to the overtime pay is if you use that activity code. That will split it out from it so that you can see what payroll is related to the permanent labor and the benefits related to that, and then what payroll is related to overtime and the overtime benefits as well. This was presented earlier in December, and so we had reminded everybody the upcoming deadline of December 19th. That's for all expenses that were posted July 1st or September 30th. If there's any corrections, you may hear from budget analysts. If they do another review and they find that there may be items that still need to be corrected, you may hear from a budget analyst to work with your office to make those corrections. And then the upcoming training is Flex Week, which is right now for our budget updates training. And then there'll be also future training from business services and contracts as well. And so those were the updates that were provided by the VP of FAS at Admin Council. And then, let me see. There was also an email that was sent out. I'm gonna hide this. From the VP of FAS's office, and in relation to ICAs, again, KCCD is no longer approving ICAs after the fact and also purchase orders. So we went over the ICA piece of it, but for purchase orders, our policy and procedures for purchase orders is you need to put in the purchase order before you receive the invoice. So you may be working off an estimate. You may be working off of your own estimate. If you determine that we're going to be utilizing somebody's services for so many hours, for so many months, that will help you estimate how much you need to put in the PO for as well. Then that will also help you estimate the number that you need to put for your ICA. Marissa, did you have a question?
I do. And the way that they bill is to send you an invoice, but it's a 60-day invoice.
Mhm.
Or 30 days, whatever, so you don't have a way of putting in the PO before you receive the invoice.
Do you know what amount that you have allotted for funding that service within your budget? So then you could potentially, let's say, it was determined that you're going to budget $5,000 for these services, but you're unsure how much you're going to use them for. You can put in an open PO for $5,000 for those services. And then that open PO, every time you get an invoice, that invoice will pay against that PO. And then if you determine, hey, we're not going to be using $5,000 for the whole year, if you do a review mid-year and say, well, there's $600 left of it, we can decrease our PO. You can decrease your PO. You can do a change order and adjust throughout the year. And so you could start off with, how much do we have allotted for these services? Do an open PO for that. Do a mid-year review, make your adjustments, and then continue reviewing as the fiscal year continues. Does that help? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
That's what you anticipate.
If you anticipate it. Also, you may want to do a contingency for emergencies as well. Mhm. Then you would do a change order to change the account code. Yep. Yeah. I think people wait for the invoice because they don't want to have to do a change order, but I think we have to get used to the fact that you may have to do change orders. Yeah, it's best practice to start off with your PO. Things change. We have a whole fiscal year to run through, and sometimes programs change, sometimes initiatives change. And so then you're having to do adjustments and just view change orders. Hey, I got to do adjustment. That's it. You do adjustments throughout the year. Yeah, so then if you have counselors or ed advisors that are traveling to other campuses or sites, doing an open PO, considering what they travel that they did last year, if there's an increase or decrease to that, do an open PO for $2,000 for mileage reimbursement, review mid-year, and then adjust at that point. You're just the way they view it, just you're encumbering those funds for those purposes so that you know that you're going to cover them. Do the open PO for that. And then just make adjustments as you go along. It also will help you track it as well. Knowing that, okay, 2,000 is encumbered for this mileage reimbursement for this individual. Where are they at mid-year? Actually, I can adjust that. I could decrease it, which then opens up that PO once that change order is approved to then move the funds, or the funds will go back to that FOBL, and then maybe you will have funds that you can adjust to other accounts at that point. Okay. So there's also, for sufficient time for review and approval, at least submitting it 30 days in advance is helpful. And so we need to get in the process of we're planning and having those discussions with, if your support staff, having discussions with your supervisors having discussion with your support staff. What is the plan for this upcoming year? We're mid-year into our current fiscal year 26, and then we've already started the planning process for fiscal year 27. And so these discussions should be occurring within your office of what should we be planning for? What POs do I need to be aware of? What do I need to enter? And ensuring that things are budgeted, POs are in, and invoices are paid. what ICAs do I need established? So the expectation is at least 30 days in advance, but as we're coming up to the end of the fiscal year, I would say March, April, talk to your office because you want to have your July 1st ICAs in before July 1st. And so have those discussions March and April to see what the plan is so that you have your new fiscal year ICAs in the system as well. Also, it's a good practice to view what open ICAs you have because you may not have an annual ICA, you may have a 3-year ICA. And so just to gauge, oh, okay, I have 2 years left of that. I need to make sure that there's budget for that as well. It does note that the current contract approval time is 3 to 4 weeks, so please keep that in mind. Also, contracts is experiencing staffing shortages, and so that may have longer review time. Also consider board dates. So if you have anything that needs to go to board for approval because it's above that purchasing threshold, then you have to time it where you submit that so that it would make the next board date. And usually with board dates, items that need to be submitted are usually due the month before. And so you have to do all of this, work with the ICA with your vendor, work with contracts if there's any issues with the contract itself or the ICA, and then also make it on the board date deadline, which is a month before the actual board date itself. So when you have an ICA, I would recommend mapping that timeline out so that you know that you're hitting your targets.
So it's not, I think that that's kind of it, you know, it's some of the vendors because they make so.
Yes.
The fact that
Mhm.
they take a year.
Yeah.
Just to get it done, so even starting early, you know, if they're not giving you the paperwork that you need, or they're sending you the wrong stuff, it's just a lot of going back, and then you don't hear from them a whole week because they went on vacation, or,
Right.
you know, it's just, do we update those dates if they not those dates? Is that what we're doing now?
That would be my recommendation, unless you want to speak to your supervisor and work through that chain of command to let them know, hey, I've been in contact with this vendor for over a year. But then the next question is, if you're trying to use a start date prior, were they doing work during that time? And that's a red flag. They should not be doing any work until we have a contract on file to protect ourselves. And then also they should be protecting themselves as well. Yeah, in case there's any issues. Okay, so then it has a link to the contracts and guidelines, which is in employee forms, and then the email to contracts. Goes over purchase orders and invoices. So again, a purchase order needs to be issued before the invoice. And so what's very specific to this is your invoice date should be after your PO date. Your PO date should be a before, and that it should already be a given if you're doing the PO prior. And so then the PO is approved. That date of approval is before the invoice date as well, because everything that's in the PO has been pre-approved, and then that service is then provided. That's when you get that invoice. And so that's the order of events.
If you do a bill that isn't in.
Mhm. What vendor is that?
It's for like a subscription, so then it wasn't expired yet.
Mm-hmm.
They sent the bill for it well in advance, like as a reminder, hey, you owe this for when it expires on this date coming up. So-
Okay.
So since we're already paying for it before it expired, but now we're being told because we did the purchase after the date that they technically invoiced us, now they won't process it.
And that's what your current situation is? Okay, so then I think,
But it's not, it's a bill. in
Yeah.
a sense, but it's like an invoice, but it's.
It says invoice date, which is the date they sent us the bill. But it's like a future,
yes,
it wasn't due until several months later, which we paid it in between that time, but now they won't process it because they're saying, well, you were invoiced at this time and then paid it after.
And are you in discussion with business services at this point? And there hasn't been a resolution? Has that been elevated?
No.
Okay. Yes, so we can take that through the chain of command. You can pull us in so that we can help with that, so that we can get to a resolution. I mean, it still has to get paid. If the vendor provided services, we still have to get it paid, but let's work through what needs to be done to get to a solution, and then we can also figure out what we need to do in the future as well. And it may require talking to the vendor to maybe
We could do
set
that
up differently. Yeah,
and open here.
yeah, yes. Because if you know that you're gonna have annual services, you might as well do an open PO. Okay.
We're all gonna be.
You're welcome. Okay, so then we talked about POs, we talked about invoices. If you have any issues with PO entries or invoices, you would be going to our business office, which is business services. And then purchasing, the email for them is there, and then any purchasing guidelines and resources that is in employee forms under the purchasing area. Let's see. So ICAs, contracts, agreements, MOUs, amendments, KCCD, facilities use, the routing through Adobe Sign remains the same, except now you don't have the admin assistant prior to the VP of FAST. That was an update that went, I believe, out in July, and it gives the Adobe Sign routing tips. Refer to that. For any of the finance documents, that tells you how to route things in Adobe Sign. Just a reminder, if it says campus director of administration or campus vice president of finance and admin services, that is the vice president of finance and admin services, which is Queen King. As you notice, a lot of our forms don't get updated in a timely manner, and so there are old titles that are on there. So that was previous titles for that position. Just a reminder for your ICAs, FOPL string, make sure that your account matches the type of services that are being provided. Make sure that you have a full FOPL string that matches your budget, so that when budget office reviews it, we're reviewing the FOPL and ensuring that you have funding for it, ensuring that your FOPL string makes sense and is accurate. Make sure there's current certificates of insurances, and so check the dates of their cert to make sure that by the time, if it's going to board for approval, it's still active. By the time all the approvals are done, that it's still active. If there's any auto or workers' comps insurance, and then if they have any or adequate additional insurance is covered as well. And then make sure that it doesn't say Bakersfield College as the entity. We are Kern Community College District on behalf of Bakersfield College as the entity for any contracts. And then also that KCCD is listed as an additional insured. Any questions on that on those updates? Okay. And then we also got a most recent update from district. And this is from our interim associate vice chancellor of accounting, Denise McCauley. This was sent out to employee all, so please let me know if you did not receive this. District is ensuring that we are all aligned, all the campuses, all the sites. And so the items that would be affecting budget is NSF, and I'll go more into detail about that. The mileage reimbursement rate has increased effective January 1st. So now that mileage reimbursement is 0.725 cents per mile. And then it's applied based on the travel date, not the submission date. So if they traveled in December, this would not apply. This would be January 1st and after for any travel dates. Again, a reminder, fixed assets is over 10,000. Let's see. Make sure your fixed asset in the PO that you're using that FA, make sure that your budget is in for that fixed asset, the FA next to that 6,000 account before you then do your PO, and then that gets approved. Prepaid expenses, there's now an account code for 5799. That is a business services process, and so they will go over that in one of their trainings. And so one of the items that I wanted to go into further is this NSF monitoring, and NSF stands for non-sufficient funds. And so we want to ensure that anything that is entered in the system does not have a non-sufficient error on it, non-sufficient funds error on it. So what the campus can do is check your budget before you enter a PO, check your budget before you enter a budget transfer, and making sure that your FOPL is accurate when you make any entries into the system. Sometimes people, there's typos, sometimes you're missing elements of it. Just make sure that your FOPL string is accurate when you're making entries into the system. Let's see. Anytime that you have an NSF, though, it should not be approved. Our campus policy is if there's a non-sufficient fund error on something, it should not move forward unless that has been gone through the chain of commands, been brought to budget office's attention and the VPFS's attention, because we do not move forward items with non-sufficient funds because we should be resolving those budget issues before it reaches any point beyond that. So in the areas of roles and responsibilities under departments, one of the things that I wanted to point out is must review. It says fund, org, and account. And what it should also include is program. And so in our banner system, what's required in the system is your fund, org, account, and your program codes. If you don't have all of those elements, it won't move forward in the system. However, if you have activity codes and location codes, make sure you check those as well, because it won't hit your budget line accurately if you're missing any of those elements, if you have that as part of your budget. And then you're checking your available balance. And then if there's any questions, you can always coordinate with our budget office to work through any solutions. What the budget office does is we get an NSF report that's auto-generated from Banner, and then we reach out to the departments. You may have received emails from us like, hey, we saw this as an NSF report. Please let us know if your FOPL needs to be correct, or, please review this. Does your FOPL need to be corrected? Do you need to do a budget transfer? And make sure that we clear out those NSFs. Are there any questions on that? So when you're checking your budget and you submit a budget transfer, once that budget transfer has been entered by you and you get a journal number, it's routing through approvals. While it's routing through approvals, you can move forward with your purchase order or your change order. You do not have to wait for that budget transfer to be approved. When you put in your budget transfer and you check your available balance in your pooled accounts, it will show it available at the point that you make that entry. That way, I can proceed with my PO, I can proceed with my change order as it routes through approvals. If you're in a situation where you entered your PO before you entered a budget transfer that is needed, your PO will show up as NSF, and then it will also show up in your pending documents, and then show that encumbered funds in the background. You may not see it when you pull your budget in front of you, but it has it in the background as a pending item. And so you'll need to do a budget transfer to clear that NSF on there. And if you need any help to go through those steps, it's dependent on dates, it's dependent on timing wise, and then it requires you to delete your FOPL once you've entered your budget transfer to resolve that issue, deleting your FOPL and entering your full FOPL again so that it makes Banner check again against your FOPL, and then that should clear your NSF. We should not be moving forward with any NSFs in the system. Okay. So it leaves us 12 minutes. One of the things that I also wanted to mention was that as far as we know, there was an email that came up from the district. Denise Macaulay had sent an email before the break that MyBandWeb will no longer be supported and that it was going away effective January 1st. From what I can see, when we go in there, we can still see MyBandWeb. But just know that it most likely will not be supported. So if you receive any errors in it, they're not going to be resolving that. And so we should be transitioning over to Finance Self-Service 9, which is the newer version of self-service. And so I'm going to show you how to get there. So in your Banner instances, you have MyBandWeb, that's still there. This is self-service version 8. And so with finance, there's this finance link and then this finance tab. This is now being replaced with Finance Self-Service 9. So if you scroll down, there's Finance Self-Service 9. And this is what is replacing it. Let me zoom in. And so when you log in or you click that link, if you do not have these options, please let our office know so that we can walk you through to ensure that you have these options. We found that newer employees that have been coming on, when they make their requests for self-service, IT wasn't giving them these options. And so we have a guide that you can follow that you have to add into your notes to make requests specifically for these items. And then that will give you access.
It's like your name up there. I don't even know. Does it not?
Yes, it should say your name. One of the great things with the update for Finance Self-Service 9 is that you have the ability to favorite your queries so that you can see as soon as you log in and you click My Finance Query, you don't have to run any reports. There is this saved or favorited report already there. And so you don't have to run any queries. You can just click on that and then it'll pull up your report. And so you have the ability to favorite and set up your queries already. If you wanted to focus on anything specific, you can do it up to that account code and then you can label it and say, I want to track my travel. This is my travel and this is how far I've spent and how much I have left. It will tell you if your budget has been exceeded. And so that's a red flag right there. So you'll need to request for more funds. And then when you have the option to save, you first can select favorite or you can do save queries. That will just make it the second selection. So favorite it if you want it to be the first thing that appears when you log in. Let's see. For my journals, that is replacing your budget transfers. And so this also gives you a summary of what you have pending. So these are draft journals. If you have any pending journals or if you have any completed journals that you could review. For anything that is in draft, this one has been disapproved. So if I wanted more information, it tells me approval has been denied. If I wanted to delete it, I can click here and then delete the journal or delete the budget transfer. Hit yes, and then it's deleted. And so it makes it easier for you to track your items. One of the features on view document is if you wanted to view, let's say, an invoice, and you have that document number, you can view the document. It'll load it with a PDF to give you more information. And then if you go to approvals and related documents, it shows you the related document area where there's the check and when it was cut. And then also, now that we have banner document management, BDM, you're able to also see the invoice that was processed with it. So all the documents that are uploaded as it relates to the invoice. Mm. And then all the approval history. And then if there was any approvals required, if it was still pending approvals. So self-service 9, please utilize it. Make sure that you have these options. Reach out to us if you don't, we'll help you get access because this is what is replacing my band web. And so start utilizing, start learning, start getting used to it so that you can run your reports, look into documents, and then submit your budget transfers that way as well. So we have 6 minutes left. I'll open it up to any questions, concerns, any issues.
You know. Under
Okay.
view docs with TEA show up under that?
No, TAs is related to temporary payroll. And so they don't upload that into the banner system. Yeah. Are you trying to get a copy of your TEAs?
Well, it's just good to see that they're coming through. Okay, separate, yeah.
But with TEAs, they're routed through Adobe Sign.
Yeah.
And so your support staff, when they route that, they're able to see where it is
Right.
in the approvals. And then once, yeah, to be able to just pull it up.
You're in the budget. So you
Yeah.
have to go out of budget to.
That would be nice. Banner is split up into different modules. And so this is the finance module, and then TAs would be in the HR module, and they're not using that function. Let's see. Are there any questions on?
Not on chat.
Okay. Who do we reach out for help with setting up BDM? I have been able to get in. BDM is under the purview of business services. So I'd recommend reaching out to Christine Morales if you need any help with BDM. And then I will forward all the information that I've gone through. I'll re-forward what has been sent out to the campus. We also have a guide as well for self-service, so I'll include that as well. And then it also gives a guide of how to request for banner access and all the things that need to be selected. Okay. If there aren't any further questions, thank you for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Have a great day. We're out of water.
Thank you, Somali and Brett.
What's that?
I said thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
We'll see you tomorrow.